Hello everyone, it's time to leave the 2000s and head into the 2010s in this series that I'm doing on my channel where I talk about all of the highest charting songs on the Billboard charts for every single year from 2000 moving forward. And this is episode number 11, which means that 2010 is indeed the year in front of me today. And I gotta say, the years are starting to get a bit more away from my personal preference in terms of just music styles and approaches. It's kind of fun revisiting how songs sounded back then because it's kind of a gray area in my memory because I kind of really delved into my own little world of what I really enjoyed listening to when I was, well, 13 years old or so back in 2010. So a lot of these songs have really passed me by, and now revisiting them in 2024, I mean, that gives a certain kind of impression to me as a listener, I'd say. And it's interesting to go back and really check them out now. Of course, majority of these songs I was familiar with, but I never really had this very close relationship with majority of these songs because I never really listened that much to the mainstream music and whatever that was playing on the radio. So it's been nice to go back to this year. We'll see how much I actually enjoyed the tracks that really charted so highly from this year. I think there will be a bit of varied opinions regarding the songs on screen right here. Maybe you spot a favorite or two already from the artworks. I'll tell you that I have a few. However, one of those few will absolutely not be the first song that I'm talking about. I'm a Bee by the Black Eyed Peas, which is, I mean, this song could have the most obnoxious hook I've ever heard. It's the I'm a bee, I'm a bee, I'm a bee, which is just complete nonsense. And I suppose that Black Eyed Peas wants to do what Black Eyed Peas maybe usually had success with. I mean, back in 2009, the year just before this one, they had the number one hit on Billboard with a club song called Boom Boom Pow. This one is equally as dumb and lack of substance, really. Like there's nothing about this track that that's supposed to really be applauded. I'm not sure. This instrumental tries to be very dynamic, but it's really just ultimately very thin and almost famished in terms of its actual delivery here. It tries to kind of, like the song tries to kind of create this engaging feeling of chanting hey, hey, hey at the very back of the soundstage on every single beat, and it's just this constant repetition of that becomes very, very tiring. It's so tiresome, so pointless. Who is this song for? I'm not sure. I mean, I guess they want to create music for the club scene, but this is surely not a party song, right? Because it doesn't have that energy or drive to it. 2 minutes in, they throw in a little tempo automation, which is cool. I'll give them that, and it leads into something else, a segment of a lot of strange sound design choices, which I guess stands out and is more upbeat. I understand that part better, but the first 2 minutes of this track, surely no one's dancing to this. I can't imagine that. This song is an absolute mess of a package in my book. It's a very clear F right from the get-go. I have no idea how this song managed to become such a hit. Maybe just really the name of the group behind it, because this is not a song I would ever return to willingly. It's just really off for me. So no, not a good start for 2010 here. And I don't think it will get much better as I move along either, because in 19th place, we have Mike Posner and Gigamesh with Cooler Than Me, which absolutely this song I do understand a bit more than I'm a Bee. But why is Mr. Posner singing like that? It's a very off-putting kind of vocal approach that he has. It's overly breathy. It doesn't really bring a lot of clarity to the track, and it's just ultimately very off-putting and distracting. It's like he's intentionally trying to sound moronic in this track, and I don't get it. And I of course know, like, I'm not very familiar with Mike Posner, but from what I've heard, most of his songs he sounds like this. Like, does he actually sound like that? Because it sounds like he's putting on some kind of gimmick on his vocal, which is just very distracting and doesn't really sound that great in my ears. The song that he has here has an enjoyable flow throughout. I really think so, and the track has a decent groove to it. But ultimately, there's kind of also a lack of development, really, which makes it a bit underwhelming, I would say. Um, Really off-putting listen. It's upbeat enough for me to put it in the E tier, but I'm not going further than that. I think this is a very strange listen. And I guess I suppose why it became successful, but it's at the end of the day, I just don't find it enjoyable to listen to at all because of his approach. Really, I think is the main issue. Um, but ultimately, the song is kind of lacking in terms of development and progression as well. So yeah, not really up my alley there. However, Just the Way You Are by Bruno Mars is absolutely up my alley. I think like the early days of Bruno Mars, it's so strange to kind of compare what Bruno Mars used to be and what he is now. But something that I think he's always definitely excelled at is his vocal deliveries. I think he has a stunning vocal and really showcases that skill immensely well in this track. It also has a like just a beautiful presentation as a whole. I like the piano work in this track. I think the beat is absolutely a part that elevates it so massively as well. The I guess the the setback of this track would probably be that it's so sweet and so cheesy that it's a bit silly, really. But I can kind of click with it and I can accept it for what it is because I think the presentation is done so well here. I love how this um, percussion that the track has is so upbeat and energetic to provide it provides such an energetic quality to a very sentimental and mellow and sweet ballad. It's a nice combination of the two that maybe shouldn't work in every aspect, but here I just think it creates a wonderful soundscape behind the presentation of this very honest and tangible performance from Mr. Mars here. It's a song that's simultaneously very energetic while also being a ballad, which I think is admirable, really. Melodically as well, I think the song keeps itself very refreshing throughout. It has different segments that are all very memorable in terms of their melodic writing. And I think maybe a lot of that obviously comes down to the compelling vocal delivery. But just the strong identity that this track has, I can't shy away from it. I think beautifully presented, energetic track while also being very emotionally loaded. I think everything just clicks here. It might be a bit too much on the cheesy side, but I do really enjoy it. I think it's an A-tier song, and I'm actually looking forward to seeing which Bruno Mars tracks I'm going to be talking about in the future videos because he has quite a few standouts, I think, and sometimes maybe they're not up my alley, but this one absolutely is. Great tune there from Bruno Mars, in my opinion. Next up is Katy Perry, and I of course talked about Katy Perry in the last video, I think, with I Kissed a Girl. This is Teenage Dream, which is one of two Katy Perry songs I will talk about here. And this one is, it's odd, I think. I think Miss Perry here has a very strange vocal approach in the verses of this track that kind of always throws me off a little bit. It's not really a style that I associate her with a lot. I will be honest and say that going through Katy Perry's discography is not really it's not really something that I do very frequently. I don't particularly enjoy a lot of her music. This one, it's accessible. I get why it's a hit. It's a simple pop tune with a catchy chorus, melodically mainly, I think. And there's this constant energy from the percussion, which makes the song upbeat and decent as well. Instrumentally, I find the song to be quite underwhelming and maybe a bit too minimalistic, I suppose. Even though like the song melodically flows nicely, I'm just a bit uninterested by it, which holds back my enjoyment quite a lot. It's an accessible tune, but I don't find myself enjoying it very much. I get why others would, but it's probably a D tier song for me. I think everything's solid about it. It's just that I don't particularly enjoy listening to it that much. I'd rather seek something else out with a bit more personality or drive or a compelling tone to it. I think this one's just kind of a bit middle of the road, I suppose. Now, Lady Gaga and Beyoncé paired up around this time as well to create Telephone, which is a unique little piece of music, I have to say. I'm very fond of Lady Gaga, especially during these early years. And I think this whole time period when she released the Fame Monster has some of the most incredible melodies really in modern, I suppose. the modern pop music. I mean, it's not really modern anymore. Of course, this is 14 years ago, but still, it feels modern in my head, and it's these upbeat digital kind of pop tunes. And I think the melodies that Lady Gaga mainly sung during this time are some of the strongest, and Telephone is no different. I think this song has some brilliant melodic lines, really. They flow so naturally in this track. They're very engaging, they're very fun to sing along to, and the variation in the track is also quite noteworthy, I would say. The choruses are varied, they have a lot of fun, playful ideas in there. The neat melodies combine very nicely with vocal chops here that I think just kind of generates a fun listening experience. And the energetic backdrop that this song has as well works hand in hand with that. I think the mixing here highlights all the detailing in the track very nicely as well. And it's a strong, compelling instrumental with a really punchy drive. I think that this song is very, very good. It's probably another A tier, and I think that it's more hard hitting, I guess, than just the way you are. I think it's a great pop tune. Definitely gets me heavily invested into it whenever I hear it. So yeah, great one there from Lady Gaga and Beyonce. I can't think of any other names to call them here. But yeah, good stuff. I think that's an A tier song actually. Great pop tune. And next up, Rihanna with Rude Boy, which is a song that I'm so conflicted about because I really hate the hook of this track. Like this whole concept of making a song as repetitive as possible and repeat certain words or certain sounds to create something catchy. I hate that kind of device to try and use to make people remember your song. It's not needed here. I think Rude Boy has a very strong and convincing beat. I think the verses are poignant melodically. I think the vocal lines that Rihanna performs in the verses of this track are strong, very, very strong, and stand on their own. They don't need a hook like this to just detract the enjoyment that I feel for the song. I think mainly, like, as I said, I'm very conflicted about it. The hook is such a disappointment because the beat of the track is absolutely just effective in both drive and also playfulness, I think. And the verses flow with this really strong groove while also being melodically striking. And these sections, they're melodically very satisfactory, and the beat is as well. But I just hate this hook that the song has. So where can I land on this one? I'm not sure. The core of it all, it's neat, but I don't listen to it. I can't listen to it. It's a D. I feel maybe that's a bit harsh, but it's the chorus. It's just not enjoyable for me. I find it really annoying, which is a shame. It's a real shame actually, but yeah, I can't look past it, unfortunately. Next up, Jason Derulo. Is this the first? This has to be the first time I'm talking about Jason Derulo. This is one of his first, if not his first, big hit, I suppose, In My Head, which is a catchy hook. Absolutely, I'm not a big fan of Mr. Derulo here, but this song has a catchy hook. Absolutely, it sticks pretty instantly, and this is one of these songs that I never listened to back in 2010, but it was on the radio all the time, and it was one of these songs where like I could immediately sing along to it after the first time I really heard it, because it's just one of those melodies that hit. It's rhythmically quite fun. It's fun to sing along to. I get the energetic aspects of the track as well. It's quite a dynamic vocal throughout the track as well, and but maybe, like, I feel like it is a dynamic vocal performance anyway, but maybe I've just lowered my standards quite a bit when getting to these more modern years, I suppose. Because as well, like, of course, there is a lot of processing at its core here as well, which detracts my enjoyment, but yeah, there's something in here. It's a simple pop tune that just works well because it's catchy. And I'm tempted to put it into, I think, B, because I think it's a decent pop tune with a lot of energy to it. But there is one thing that puts me off so much about it, which makes me want to put it in C, which is where I will put it. And it's these constant, like, moaning and grunting sounds at the background of the track. They're just laughably awful inputs. Whose idea was it to get I think it's Jason Derulo who does the sounds, or if it's a feature that's not credited. But who had the idea that he should grunt and moan really loudly into the microphone and just place that in the background of the track? It's it's laughably bad in that aspect. Um, so yeah, that takes away a lot of the enjoyment I have for it, at least. But what can you do? The song is the way it is, and it won't change. Next up, we got BedRock here by Young Money and Lloyd, and I had never heard of this song before. It hasn't really left much of an impression. It's rapping, more explicit rapping about inside the bed activities with a digitally drowned vocal hook. However, I read up a little bit about Young Money here, and I guess this was our introduction, at least my introduction. Or well, I can't say that because I didn't hear this song back in the day. But I guess for some people, it was an introduction to such wonderful artists that I absolutely love, like Drake and Tyga, and not the least Nicki Minaj, who has one of the more outstanding verses in this track. It's I'm not sure. Like I find it very unclear how this kind of show reel generated such successful careers for all of them, because I find this song to be absolutely horrendous. It's a repetitive beat. It is almost 5 minutes long and just never stops. It's utter nonsense throughout, and it's anything but a fun listen for me. It's definitely an F tier song. I do not enjoy it in the slightest. I think the rap verses are all pretty poor, but I'm not a hip hop expert, so maybe they're all fantastic and I just don't see it. So, but I gotta be honest with myself. For me, this is a clear example of an F track. It's hip hop when I like it the least. So, yeah, it is what it is. Next up, Enrique Iglesias here. I probably mispronounced that. Enrique Iglesias, maybe. I don't know. And Pitbull. I think this is the first time I talk about Mr. Iglesias here. This is a song I Like It, which you know, isn't really up my alley. There is the obligatory cringeworthy Pitbull verse in this track, which is really makes me want to turn off the song entirely. But overall, it's a dance-friendly kind of pop tune that's clearly a thing of its time. It sounds quite poor in today's ears, really, but it sounds like a 2010 kind of song, and it's fully embracing that. I've come to realize just how bad I found the upbeat pop tunes of this era to be, unless they were made by Lady Gaga, I suppose. But this is flavorless synth work in this track, overly processed vocals again, and a melodically really uninspired hook in my book. It's an E. Has not left much of an impression on me. I think some redeeming qualities are in there. There are some probably memorable aspects, but the song passes me by, and it's just another pop tune of 2010 that I just couldn't care less about. Sorry, Enrique. Sorry, Pitbull. But no, not for me. Next up, however, B.o.B and Bruno Mars, Nothin on You. And yeah, B.o.B is definitely more up my alley. I'm not familiar with him much as a rapper, but when I listen to this song, and well, I guess spoiler alert, but there's another one by him later on a bit. There is there's something about him that just speaks to me as a rapper that I can actually connect with. I think his verses are very compelling. In this track, the storytelling is absolutely on focus, and I listen to every word. But I think it's really the backdrop that sells it. It's a song with just a lovely production behind it. There's a lot of the bass work in it is very full, and then there's also a very pretty piano motif contrasting it, and the percussion is very forceful in it. It's like all of these aspects simultaneously work together in creating a very atmospheric and tangible backdrop to the track. A track which I think also has a bunch of emotional impact, mainly from I think this beautiful vocal hook by Bruno Mars and the effective chord progression that kind of what you say kind of works with him. I'm losing my English vocabulary, but the way that collaborates really is what sells it for me. And then the energetic rap verses from B.o.B here are very strong. I think it's a perfectly balanced, sentimental pop rap hybrid crossover. that just takes the best from both kind of worlds and puts it together into a very neat package. I think it's an A tier song. I'm placing it between Telephone and Just the Way You Are. Beautiful listen, really, and with a lot of energy to it as well. I'm very much enjoyed listening to this one, and I wasn't very familiar with it before. I had heard it only once or twice, but now I have good reason to return to it way more times. So yeah, really nice one there. Positive surprise to return to. Half of the list done. It's not looking great, but 3 songs in the A tier is not bad. Break Your Heart here by Taio, Cruz, and Ludacris is up next. And I have no idea what happened to... I'm going to call him Taio Cruz. What sounds better, Taio or Taio? Taio Cruz. I'm going Taio Cruz. Taio Cruz, I have no idea what happened to him. He has 2 big hits here. You can see Dynamite right next to it. Sunglasses on both cover arts, of course, because he wants to look tough. Understandable. Break Your Heart is a catchy pop tune, really. Catchy hook, flows very naturally, maintains its energy really well. I think a lot of things are just tick in the box. I really like this arpeggio that gives the song its energy as well in the backdrop, and it has a pulsating, kind of constant bass in there as well. Everything comes together quite nicely. There's really nothing I can complain about other than processing on the voice, I think. But ultimately, I think this is a decent pop tune. Doesn't really do many things wrong. Doesn't stand out in many aspects either. But it's just catchy, simple, effective. B tier. Why not? Just a straight up B tier. And honestly, I gotta probably put Dynamite in there as well. Dynamite has a really strong hook. Like this song, people know this song. You've heard this song and you remember the chorus of it. This melodic hook that the song has is very striking and absolutely instantly recognizable. It has an effectively distinct rhythm as well from the keys that supports it, which makes it a foot tapper, absolutely. Fun tune, has aged quite poorly because, I guess, again, I mean, the vocal processing on this track is so excessive that it really hurts me, but whatever. I just gotta get used to it when listening to these years, I suppose. But the song has aged very poorly. It doesn't sound crisp at all. The clarity in the mix is kind of lost as well, and it very much sounds like a thing of its time. However, I suppose this one managed to somehow, I guess due to the catchy hook, to just kind of create a charm around that nostalgia of a worse sounding production, really. I'm placing it in the B tier. I do probably prefer Break Your Heart as a song. Dynamite has the hook, though. Both of them have a hook, honestly. But yeah, both of them will be placed in the B tier here for me. Whatever happened to Taio Cruz? I probably have to read up on him a little bit, I suppose. But someone I don't really need to read up on a lot is, of course, Lady Gaga. Again, this is Bad Romance, and another just melodically poignant track from Miss Gaga. Great flow in this track. And all these old Lady Gaga songs are simply just huge hits because melodically they're striking, the energy is top tier. I think her artistry and her vision really stands out among other pop songs. And she can use this kind of vocal processing in an effective way because you can still hear the convincing impact that her voice has and her vocal performances on the recordings have had. She also blends like these very gimmicky, like in this case of the song of Bad Romance, this gimmicky section that blends into the track. It's a bit much, in my opinion. I think that it's maybe not very up my alley, but it's a fun detail that she's created, and it's a selling point for this track that makes it an even bigger hit. So I understand it. Now, I'm placing this in the A tier as well, but this is probably, like, out of the 4 Lady Gaga tracks, there have already been 4 of them in like 2 videos. But out of those 4, this Bad Romance is probably my least favorite. It's still a perfect pop song, or perfect, but it's still a really great pop tune that I get a lot of enjoyment out of, mainly due to its melody and presentation. But I think maybe this gimmicky kind of rah-rah, rumah-rah part is holding it back just a little for my personal enjoyment. And this is also like the first time I've really thought about a Lady Gaga track to actually lack something in its production, which I think is definitely the drum beat, which I think is a bit flat in this track, which holds it back slightly. So still A tier kind of song, but I do prefer Telephone and of course Poker Face and Just Dance as well. But still, A tier for me. Next up, the huge, very famous, very well-selling and very popular duet with Eminem and Rihanna, "Love the Way You Lie," which I think is, whenever this was dropped, I remember it being like the biggest thing ever at my school. Like everyone was listening to it because everyone loved Rihanna, everyone loved Eminem, and they just came together and they made this. And it's a very kind of a super melodramatic piece that combines beautiful vocal delivery really from Rihanna with a lot of aggression and frustration from Eminem's rap verses, which I think get really over the top in this track. But the emotional grip that the song tries to communicate, I suppose, is absolutely there, and I feel for it. And I do think it's a listen that I'm actually quite intrigued by, and I always find it quite striking in terms of its actual impact that it has. It's a dynamic tune. It's a bit over the top, I have to admit, but I do still think that it comes together quite nicely. And I guess the chorus is a big part of it. Of course, Rihanna's delivery there is strong, and the backdrop in the instrumental is as well. And the verses provide a nice little contrast to them with their assertive and aggressive touch. So B tier, top of B tier for me. Nice one, really. Not a collaboration that disappointed in my book, but maybe not one that just hugely impressed me either. But I know a lot of other people really love this tune, so all the more power to them. When it comes to pop rap crossovers, though, I think that Airplanes by B.o.B and Hayley Williams is a bit superior. This is emotionally loaded, if anything. I'm like such a big fan of B.o.B, I've realized, and I've only heard 2 tracks by him, I'm pretty sure, and it's the 2 that I'm talking about today. Maybe I should delve deeper into the catalog here. But Hayley Williams of Paramore, of course, has a wonderful vocal hook on this track, very emotionally loaded and sung with such sincerity and clarity, and provides and has a backdrop of this piano work that's very striking and beautiful, really. It's quite a haunting tune, and I think that whatever you may think of B.o.B's storytelling in this track, maybe it's a bit excessive in presentation, and maybe he's overdoing it a little bit, but it's one of these rap performances that I think are so memorable. Like I know every word to his rap verses. It's difficult, I think, to kind of create a rap verse that's sing along friendly, or I guess rap along friendly. But this one, it's in here entirely, and yeah, instantly memorable track altogether. Really, the storytelling of the song works for me. Might be a bit excessive, I'm not sure, but the palpable emotion in this track really works for me. I think this is top of A tier. Yeah, just really lovely in my opinion. Love the sentimental value of it as well. So really nice. Going from that to the next song, I guess this is a proper whiplash effect, because OMG by Usher and will.i.am, or William, or whatever you want to call him. What happened to Usher? Like I've talked about him so much in previous videos, a few years, like in the early 2000s. He was just superb, and here comes OMG, which is both a boring and an obnoxious listen. I don't know how he managed to do that. The percussion of this track sounds plastic and just plain awful. There is again, ridiculous amount of processing on this track, which is just incredibly distracting, frustrating, again, annoying. Who had the idea as well for this stupid hook that this song has? It's not catchy. The song is not upbeat whatsoever. It sounds awful, like mixing wise. The processing is to the point where you just feel like, why is this necessary? I mean, Usher, he's shown before he's a competent vocalist. Why is this needed? No clue. It's a stylistic choice, and it's a stylistic choice that sounds not good. F. Simply F. I can't wrap my head around this one. Not at all. The less I say, the better, I think. What about California Girls then? Girls with a U by Katy Perry and Snoop Dogg. More Katy Perry. Snoop Dogg isn't really a very necessary feature on this track, I believe. But this track is quite energetic, quite playful, really. Some fun little bouncy inputs from the distinct bass work, I think, mainly here. There's also a bit of the rhythmic guitar kind of adding a little bit of character into the track. Catchy hook, absolutely. I've just never enjoyed this personally. I guess that's a recurring theme with the Katy Perry tracks here. Production on this track also sounds horrendous today, but maybe in 2010 sounded punchy and vibrant and whatnot, but today doesn't really. The whoa 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 parts are processed to infinity. It hurts me, and it's not really my kind of pop tune, but I get what they're going for here. I can admire it. I think it is bouncy, it's fun. The approach is absolutely there, but I don't listen to it very much. I never listen to it. It's in the same vein as a Teenage Dream. I think Teenage Dream is more accessible, and California Girls is probably a bit more playful. I don't return to either, so I place them both in the D category here. Should they actually get some company by Hey Soul Sister by Train? I think they actually might. I think this song has a bit of two sides, really. This should be up my alley. I like these kind of singer-songwriter friendly, inspired acoustic pop tunes, but this one, not really for me. I find this song to be quite annoying with this constant ukulele campfire strumming pattern that's ceaselessly playing in the background of the song. At the same time, I kind of like this rhythmic contrast that the percussion provides in this song. It flows very nicely. It never really feels like the song takes turns that it shouldn't take. It's accessible and sweet. It has a very in-your-face vocal performance, which is hugely present in the mix here. A bit distracting, maybe. I don't know. For me, maybe a little bit. Then, as the chorus comes along, it has this very strangely idyllic kind of soundstage behind it that tries to be a bit comforting and just sounding heavenly or whatnot, or solemn. But it's ends up being a bit sugary and too on the nose for me. It's it's straight up D tier, I think, D tier material for me. That might actually even be generous. But there are, the song flows nicely. It can absolutely be considered very sweet and comforting, but just not for me. So D tier for Hey Soul Sister there. As I move into what I probably think is the song that I've listened to the most from this year, Lady Antebellum's song Need You Now. I have no idea what happened to Lady Antebellum either. I don't know a single other song that they've made. I can't name one anyway. But Need You Now, what a nice little hit that they had here. If you got a sentimental pop country ballad that just hits, you get huge success with it. I mean, this song is very, very famous, of course, and for good reason, I think. Melodically, the song flows so beautifully. I love the vocal combination from her and him. I suppose I don't know their names, but they both sound great in this track, and I think they have a lot of personality in both of their vocal performances, and they combine so nicely. The soundstage behind them, very full, very pleasant, feels complete. The mixing is strong here. Love the piano work. I think everything comes together beautifully, and the presentation just hammers it home entirely. I think this is a perfect pop country ballad that I happily return to as many times as possible. Top of A tier. Great tune. I'm so happy that this is a hit, really. I think some people could probably be very put off by this song as a whole and not really see the greatness that I see in it. I completely understand it, but for some reason it just hits me, and I find it to be a very beautiful piece. And I guess moving from A, I'm going to Kesha with Tik Tok. Which is absolutely not landing in A. This is, of course, not my kind of music. I'm sure no one expected that either. Quite fitting to return to this song. I mean, the song has aged so poorly in terms of its production, in terms of its approach musically, in terms of its instrumentation. And then you also open up the entire song with the line, "Wake up in the morning feeling like P. Diddy." If it couldn't age worse, it somehow managed to do that with its with just that line alone. I get that this is a club-friendly, upbeat pop tune that would get people energetically engaged. So kudos to that. I just personally get no enjoyment out of it. It's a bit catchy in its chorus. I'll give them that, but the production sounds so off in today's standards. It's very underwhelming in my book. I think that there are other Kesha songs I find to be more driving and forceful in terms of their actual engagement and energy. This one just kind of passes me by, and I get it like, oh yeah, I remember this song. For those who like it, all the more power to you. I don't. It's an E tier song, but I see enough redeeming qualities to place it top of E tier, I suppose. But in my opinion, it's aged terribly, like a lot of other songs from this list, if I'm completely honest. And that's that. I gotta say, this year is. I mean, okay, the 6 songs that I placed in A, I think are actually really really great. They're fantastic tunes. The 3 songs in B, they're fine, yeah, absolutely. And I guess the Derulo track is good for being Jason Derulo, I suppose. But so much just stuff that I can't stand in this year, really. Um, yeah, no, this is not my year. Absolutely not. Hopefully 2011 will be more up my alley, and hopefully we can soon get rid of these overly processed vocal approaches that the songs took back at this time, because I'm getting tired of listening to them. Yeah, let me know your thoughts on the songs today. Which one's your favorite? Please let me know. For most people, I would assume it's probably a Gaga tune, maybe. I think those are pretty universally loved, so but yeah, maybe it's "I'm a Bee" by Black Eyed Peas. Then please let me know why that would be your favorite, because I can't see it. Anyway, end of the tier list there. Thank you for checking this video out. I hope to see you again tomorrow in the next one. Until then, take care and bye bye.